strange substance found by a Southwest Arkansas man being part of a government test? Well, that's the question at the heart of a phenomenon called chemtrails, now getting widespread attention.
Well, they say the government is dumping chemicals on us to control or manipulate the weather.
People say the government is up there in airplanes spraying all kinds of chemicals to change or manipulate the weather, leaving what you see there, and they call that a chemtrail.
This is called solar radiation or solar reflection management or geoengineering or chemtrailing. 70 million tons of chemicals, aluminium sulfate, being dumped on this planet every day.
And it's interesting, Dale and Christina, this is of interest not just in this country, but European countries and frankly all over the world. A lot of folks interested in it.
Well, Dave, you mentioned that climatologists and others who study the atmosphere believe that they'd be able to surely spot any kind of signs of an ominous plot.
The little picture is from a nanofabrication study, which shows you can make very high quality, and do this in just a jet in a very simple way, make high quality aluminum particles just by spraying aluminum vapor on the substance. So it's certainly in principle possible to do that. There's a big literature that's already looked at that.
So seeing the first ingredient in that patent is aluminum.
Aluminium sulfate, strontium, barium salts, boron, lithium, strontium, lead, mercury, arsenic, it's all up there. And these are just a few to mention. Asthma is up. They're putting it down to pollen, but it's nothing to do with pollen. You're not suffering from hay fever, you're suffering from these chemicals, breathing these chemicals in every day. Look up, none of this is natural. If you look up to the higher stratosphere, you will see that none of this is natural. These milky looking, creamy effect clouds are not natural. It's time you started to wake up, because it's time to take back your lives.
I mean, this is the biggest elephant in the room.
And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard. It's more like to be riding on our grannies.
And it's becoming more obvious every day. Look at the way the contrails persist and become an entire white blanket over the whole sky.
And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard. It's more like to be riding on our grannies.
Look at this photograph of the sky. I thought that the clouds looked a little strange when I took some pictures. But then when I saw a plane go through the cloud and leave a void in the cloud that lasted for half an hour or so. Planes don't leave holes in clouds. They're just not clouds.
Aerosol geoengineering looks like it is so cheap that the cost is basically not going to be an issue. That means that implementation decisions will be risk-to-risk decisions. The risk of doing it against the risk of not doing it. And it makes the problem of how we govern it fundamentally harder and different than all this.
We're being controlled. Oh well, it's time to wake up, people. Time to wake up.
And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard. It's more like to be riding on our grannies.
Chemtrails change the amount of sunlight and energy that pierces the atmosphere. There's several articles that I can show you. So the phenomena of changing how much sun gets and energy gets into our atmosphere that heats it up is printed every day. It's just printed in such a way as to not say this is a tool for climate change. It's saying it is in fact a phenomena that will in fact change the climate by reducing the amount of sun that gets into our atmosphere. Geoengineering is one of the things that are on the table, and it'll probably be on a large enough scale that it'll be pretty obvious to everybody.
And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard. It's more like free riding on a ride.
I bought 2 little webcams and then 2 other mini DV Canon cameras. Little tripods, stuck them out around the house. And then I bought 2 computers and time-lapse software. So I could get north, south, west, and then east.
But what free-form aluminum oxide does to our environment is devastating.
What I caught after 4 months in was in about 25 minutes, and I'll show it on the video, is a series of flights. And what happened was one plane was coming along, and it was a relatively dry day in April. A plane would come along and only a little bit of the trail would stick. Only a part of it remained visible. What was curious is that another plane came along and hit precisely the middle of that segment. And I'm like, that's odd. And then another plane came along and hit the end at an angle, not bisecting or perpendicular, but off at an angle. And I thought the light went on. There's something they're doing with geometry. And observed with a time-lapse camera is that the atmosphere had literally been layers.
And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard. It's more like free riding on a ride.
So when I look up there and I figure contrails, you're telling me are chemtrails?
Yes, but a contrail would be dissipated by now.
And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard.